Assistant Treasurer Andrew Leigh, thanks for your time. How confident are you that inflation is going to actually moderate a bit more consistently from here?
Well, Tom, it's certainly tracking according to our expectations, and this suggests that what the government and the Reserve Bank are doing to bring down inflation, they're working together in concert. We know that high inflation has costs for an economy. It deters the incentive to save, deters businesses from investing, has other costs like businesses just having to update their menus all the time. So we do need to get on top of inflation for the health of the Australian economy. At this stage, it doesn't look like it's locking into those forward expectations. Jeff Borland had a really useful analysis out recently in which he said that wages seem to be responding to inflation rather than anticipating inflation. So the notion of a wage price spiral does not seem to be something we need to worry about.
I guess it's something to keep an eye on given the recent increase, but there was a few factors including the decision on the minimum wage there. The RBA is actually saying, look at the data and that households and businesses are holding up pretty well. They're not struggling in a macro sense. Do you agree?
Huge variation across the economy, Tom. So if you go to an international airline departure lounge, you'll find it packed with people who are going off for an expensive overseas holiday. If you look at the supermarket shelves, you've got more people who are doing what they call basket splitting, doing half the shop at one supermarket, half the shop at another supermarket in order to save money. Spending on home brands is up. And we're seeing a lot of people feeling the squeeze in the charity sector. I'm the Assistant Minister for Charities. A lot of those charities are talking to me about how they're not just serving people who are out of work, but increasingly it's the working poor.
So given that, the RBA has a very blunt instrument. It just has to take these macro measurements perhaps. The government can be more targeted, if you like. Is there going to be something in MyEFO for the people who have to split shops, who are struggling, who are probably wondering how they're going to pay the mortgage if we see one more rate hike?
We're always looking at ways in which we can help the most vulnerable, Tom. We're a Labor government after all, but we've still got relief flowing out from the budget. We've got that Commonwealth rental assistance, and the Australian Bureau of Statistics reports that in the last month, and just the month-to-month figures, average rents went down where otherwise they would have gone up without our Commonwealth rent assistance boost.
Okay.
The energy bill relief has seen over the last year an 8% increase in electricity prices compared to what the ABS said would have been a 19% increase.
These are the things that have happened, though. I mean, the indication I'm seeming to get is nothing new will be in MyEFO. Is that where we're at, and why, if so, given the cohort you identified there who is struggling so much?
Well, Tom, obviously I'm not going to anticipate MyEFO. I'm telling you about measures that are rolling out right now that are making a difference right now.
Even if you're not anticipating it, can you say if the government's looking at something? We had the fuel excise cut, which was previously described as something that was at least neutral in terms of inflation. So you can help with cost of living and not hurt inflation. Are there other measures like that?
We're always looking at ways we can assist the most vulnerable. We're always assessing those income support payments. Those big increases in income support payments in the last budget, recommended by the Economic Inclusion Advisory Committee, were really important. We had a whole suite of measures in the health space, for example, tripling the bulk billing incentive, 60-day prescribing. That's saving real money, particularly for people with long-term health conditions who tend to be poorer.
But again, measures that are done. Are there more out there? Is this the desperate search by the government? We have to find something new to help cost of living, or is it sort of just hang on to the next budget? What's the message to Australian people?
Tom, I'll pull you back on that measures that are done. These are measures that are helping people right now. Right now, there are Australians walking into pharmacies, paying half as much for the medications for their long-term health positions, and saving money as a result. Now,
but the problem is inflation is still up there and very high, even with these measures.
We've got inflation coming down. We need a government that's working in concert with the Reserve Bank. We've delivered the first surplus in 15 years. That's really important because the kind of unfunded cash splash that the former government engaged in was only going to fuel inflation, only going to make it more likely to have the Reserve Bank raising rates. The Reserve Bank has said that what we're doing is putting downward pressure on inflation. The ABS estimates it's taken half a percentage point off inflation.
We had the PM say no changes planned on the stage 3 tax cuts. Would you have to indicate that's happening well ahead of time? You couldn't just announce it in the May budget. That would be too late for people planning their lives and their budgets. Is that fair to say?
We have no plans to change the stage 3 tax cuts, Tom. Simple as that.
But in terms of if situations change, facts change, you might change your mind. Would that be too late, that notice? You would tell people ahead of the May budget?
Tom, I've given you a clear answer, and now you're asking me, hypothetically, if you were lying, what would the answer be? I'm giving you a very straight answer. We have no plans to change stage 3 tax cuts.
You could just say, does no plans mean you simply won't? They're going to come in on July 1.
We simply won't. They're going to come in on July 1. They're legislated. That's the stage 3 tax cuts.
Right. So it's beyond no plans. It's just simply not happening. No
Yeah.
change.
No, we're not changing the stage 3 tax cuts.
Okay.
We are doing a huge amount to assist the most vulnerable through a cost of living crisis while delivering the first surplus in 15 years.
Do you see them as fair, personally, stage 3?
They're legislated. They're not the way in which we would have put the tax cuts together, but we went to the last election really clearly saying to the Australian people we weren't touching them, and that remains our position.
So in an ideal world, you'd get in there and tinker maybe, same money, and just distribute it in other ways?
It's not Doctor Who, Tom. We're not jumping back into a time machine. These are the tax cuts that have been legislated. Labor's leaving them in place.
Okay. Andrew Leigh, appreciate your time.
Thank you.